That's what battle weary feels like. It just feels like you have no emotional skin, and you take everything personally. Everything goes in, and I felt both heartbroken and I felt, uh, just depressed and anxious and battle weary. I felt, like, exhausted.
Welcome to Truth Bombs and Tantrums, Marriage Real Talk, the podcast for battle weary wives and couples who know love is beautiful and at times brutal. I'm Donna DiDomenico, stepping in as your guest host, and today we're turning the mic around. I get to sit down with the woman behind the podcast, Veronica L. Nabizadeh, a marriage coach, non litigating attorney, and real life wife who came to the edge of walking away and chose something different. This isn't theory, this is the breaking point and the truth about what it took to rebuild. Hi, Veronica. I'm so happy to be with you today.
I'm so happy you're guest hosting, Donna. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so excited to be on and have this conversation with you. This is going to be fabulous.
Thank you. Yeah, it's better than me just talking to the camera, asking myself questions and answering them.
I think so. Maybe we at the end we might decide different, but okay, we'll hold that. So, all right, well, let's get right to the start of everything. And let's see, started with our interview. So, I'm going to ask you some great questions, Veronica, and I'm really anxious to hear the responses that you have to them because I know it's just going to be a terrific talk between us. So, I want you to think back to the moment when you said, I'm done. I'm done with this. What was actually happening in your marriage at that point in time?
Mm. We had been married 4 years. I graduated law school, and I went to my attorney friend and said, "I need you to file my divorce for me." What was happening at the time was 4 years of battling, just we were stuck in this, like, pattern, this loop, and it was relentless. And at the time I went to see my friend to, uh, divorce me, it wasn't that I didn't love my husband, it's just I wanted the pain to stop.
Yeah, I hear you. So tell me more about that pain. What did battle weary feel like to you?
Have you ever had a sunburn before? And
Yes.
yeah. Someone touches you and it's like, "Ow!" Even though it might be a light touch. That's what battle weary feels like. It just feels like you have no emotional skin, and you take everything personally. Everything goes in, and I felt both heartbroken and I felt, uh, just depressed and anxious and battle weary. I felt, like, exhausted, but then
Mm,
it was the conflict because I love my husband. And I just wanted the arguing to stop. I wanted him it's like this you I got caught in this, if only he would change, if only he would stop doing 1, 2, 3, I would be okay. We'd be able to make this storm, but that didn't happen, and that's what battle weary feels like. It's hopeful, but yet heartbroken.
yeah. Yeah. And like kind of this constant oh, anxiousness in your body, right? Like this.
Yeah, my nervous system was on high alert every day, and I was always rehearsing, "Was he gonna say? What's gonna happen?" Even if it didn't happen, I was already worried and activated as if it was gonna happen. So it was just I was just in that exhausted place, and my nervous system was really just maxed out. And battle
Yeah. And
really, the component is exhaustion, it's body fatigue, it's mental fatigue.
Mhm. Yeah, and I bet there was this readiness in you also for when what you were anticipating happened, that there you were ready. You were ready then to jump on
Protect
it.
myself. Yeah,
Yeah.
to we were caught in a one-upping war, and I'll just, no shade on my husband, we're married more than 26 years, but for a profession, he gives orders. So when he would come home, he would give me orders, and I was already ready to, like, "Don't order me around, and then we just get in this vicious circle. He didn't know what was wrong, but when you're battle weary, everything goes in, and it really it feels like it's him, but there was so much that I could take responsibility for.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you find yourself in like, was there one specific pattern or one argument that would constantly restart everything?
Oh yeah, it was the angry pursuer. It was like the walled off, dismisser and walled off. I was like always chasing, wait, wait, you gotta understand, you have to hear me. You have to, I need you to understand my point. And it was like, boom, he was out the door. And so that was
Yeah.
his pattern. The more needy I became for him to understand me. You don't understand me. You don't get my point. Can't you see my side? It's like all that trying to get him to see my side. We both weren't being heard. We both were not being respectful. It was a barrage of failures.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's kind of talk about the breaking points because that went on for a while, like you said. And there had to be like this one point in time where you said, okay, this is it. This is enough. What was that breaking point?
I had reached the point that if this is the way life is going to be for me, I want out. I just could not imagine spending the rest of my life fighting for my life, fighting to be understood, fighting to have my needs met. And so when I did go, I mean, I'm an attorney at this point. I know what the whole dealio is with getting a divorce. It wasn't fun, and I was facing it with open eyes about what it would take. But it's not that I didn't stop loving him. It really was that I was no longer thinking about how I could get him to understand me. It was mostly about just make the bleeding stop,
Yeah.
make the heartache
Yeah.
stop.
I hear you and I feel you also at the same time because it had to feel to you like it was just impossible to live that way and that, there was just no way to get out of it other than to break it off.
Yeah, and the one thing that my attorney friend told me, and this was really important, and this is something I share with all my wives, is yeah, I can totally file for your divorce, but what are you going to do with the patterns that got you here in the first place? They're just
Oh.
going to follow you to your
Mhm.
next unsuspecting relationship. And that really landed with me. And so I I turned away and I decided, okay, I'm not divorce isn't going to really stop my pain. And nor is it going to stop my love. So I that was something that was really key for me too.
Yeah, it sounds to me like it also was this big moment where you realized that you played a role in it as well. So instead of always being on a defensive or being prepared and ready to go, you realized that you had control over the situation and that you were needed to find that control within.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to break that cycle of what you said, just always preparing. I call it angry victim. I didn't think I was a victim, but looking back, I was just prepared to fight back. But what for? I had to take responsibility, but I just did not know how to do that.
Yeah. And then I think there was another piece of this story that we've talked about in the past, and that was Kara.
Yes.
And, there was a moment where your daughter interrupted everything for you and kind of brought you to a whole different way of looking at things. Tell us about that.
Well, and yeah, that was horrific because now, 10 years later, so yeah, she's 4 years old now. I was still stuck in that loop, but I wasn't bitching about it to, like, my friends and my family. I knew I had to do something. I was didn't know what to do, and then car came in and to the kitchen. I remember I was cleaning up dishes, and Shariar had just left, and she said, "Mommy, will you please make the arguing stop?" She was 4 years old. and that just broke me open. And it just dawned on me, I was still in that conflict loop, thinking that I was keeping, this from her, but kids know. They know what their parent they feel the energy. They
Mm,
they hear it, and she
yeah.
too. And so at that point, that was when I something, clicked in me. I made a vow. Now I'm realizing that my daughter is caught in the crosshairs of this battle that was going back and forth with me and my husband. And so I made a vow to make it stop. And that really opened my eyes to what can I do? What can I do? What's on my side of the street to take responsibility for? And
Mhm.
it was and it was no longer about how could I get him to change and stop doing what he's doing that's unhinging me. It's how could I stay centered? And so that day was a break open moment for me, but something wiser stepped out and I got help. And I hadn't done that before.
So I just really wanna emphasize a point that you made earlier in that question, and that was, it had been 4 years before that moment of going to the divorce attorney, deciding that you were gonna stay in the marriage, and then 4 years of kinda rinse and repeat of what was going on every day, and then, then you hit that moment where Kara walks in and says, you know, "Mom, stop,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it just shows I think what's really showing to me in there is that, we let things keep going because we don't know what to do. And then no matter what, we hit a wall at some point. Your wall was Kara and how it was impacting
Yeah.
her and how it made you feel as a mom because you're focusing on creating the perfect world for her. And then you found out it wasn't.
Yeah. And there's so many things that we can distract ourselves from the pain, from facing the pain.
Yeah. And so I know things didn't magically fix right after that. And you had said at the end of your response that, Shariar had walked out the door and then that comment came from Kara and you were now, so what did you do? What was the next thing that you did? What was the first thing that you did to try to put things the way you wanted them?
The vow to make a change, it woke up this unwavering desire to see what was going on in me. What was making me become unhinged? What was making me not be centered and speak from that wise place um, and stop the arguing? Like what eventually came out of me was stop, drop, and roll. And so remember the firefighters back in the 70s, they would come into the elementaries and schools and teach the kids how if they were on fire, to stop what they're doing, like
Yeah.
fan the flames,
Uh-huh.
up to the ground and don't inhale the smoke and roll into the carpet to extinguish the flames. Well, that works when couples are on fire too. So I learned when my husband would start something with me or say something to me and I would feel that whoosh, I would stop. I literally would shut up. If I felt that knee jerk reaction to like one up or get back at him, I stopped. And then I wouldn't stay there. Like the firemen tell the kids, like, go to the floor, don't inhale the smoke. I dropped out of the battle zone. And that was a big moment for me because Shariar was like, what is she doing? She's not in it duking it out with me. And then I rolled into self-care and self-love. And then I started, hey, what's going on with me? What is, hurting inside of me that's unhinging me? Why am I not able to be relational and rational? And I would come out, I came to my own well, I found my truth. I call it finding my truth in the name of love. I found that a lot of these things that were happening on the outside were actually triggering things from a long time ago. And I that needed my presence. And that was stop, drop, and roll. And that's what I came up with.
That's really great. I love that whole technique to stop, drop, and roll. I mean, when you think about it, that works in so many aspects of life, right? To
Yes.
just do that, so that's brilliant. I compliment you on that because such a creative approach to it. Now you stop and you drop, right? You don't respond to things. What's Shariar do?
The first time I did it, he coulda he the look on his face when I wasn't actively, angrily pursuing him, he was like, "What's going on?" You know? What happened to my wife?" I was surprised too, but I didn't stop, every time. I didn't drop. I didn't roll. I mean, this is a simple technique, hard to do, but my motivation to do this was my daughter Cara and remembering her desperate plea to make the arguing stop. So when I would mess up, I would just pick myself up by my bootstraps and just stop, drop, and roll again until I got really good at it. And now in my practice, I give people their own stop, drop, and roll baby formula for what patterns that they're stuck in. And it's just really beautiful.
That's great, that's great. So looking back now, what was the real problem?
The real problem uh, was something in me needed my attention. Some old wound needed my attention that was being activated by my husband without his awareness. And so I call it radical responsibility, taking radical responsibility. So I and in those role moments when I'm, with myself, present for what's happening inside me. And the more I practice stop, drop, and roll, the softer my marriage became. So I don't want to say the real problem was me, but the solution came from me. And so I,
Yeah, but I think a lot of times, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut in there, but I mean, a lot of times we say, "Oh, it's the marriage,"
Mhm,
but we forget there's 2 people in the
mhm,
marriage.
mhm.
And
And
so I think what you did was take
I
responsibility,
took
right?
responsibility for my side of the street. And when I did that, my marriage got softer. And the more I stayed centered and spoke from that place versus the needy place of I need you to understand, I need you to hear me, I need you to blah blah blah. I came from a different place which changed everything. It changed the battles that were happening in my home.
It's just I give you so much credit because I know how hard that is to do. And
So
and
hard.
right? And, a lot of times we take the role part of it serious and say, "Oh, well, the part of you roll into yourself and do things for yourself." You mentioned journaling. A lot of times we go on to like, "Oh, I'll go get a massage. I'll just take an hour to myself." But you went deep. You went really in and really went to the place where it was all happening inside of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I realized, yeah, thank you for saying that. I have a stop, drop, and roll baby turnaround. In fact, I'm having one tonight. And I spend a whole day helping my wives come up with their stop, drop, and roll plan. What are you going to do for yourself? Not just your body, not just self-care. How are you going to love yourself through this moment while you're being present for whatever's coming up? And that's key. And it's powerful. And it begins with you. It begins with you.
So, for those listening right now, for those battle weary wives out there, those that are feeling resentful or are feeling that pain inside of them, maybe feeling neglected or things just aren't right, maybe they're close to that point where they're saying, I need to get out of this. What are the words you have for them?
The first thing I want to say is you're not alone and you're not crazy. If you have things inside of you that you've forgotten, these wounds that happened when you were a little person, you owe it to yourself to find your, I call it truth in the name of love. You owe it to yourself to be present with yourself and know what it really means to be self-loving. Like you said, it's not about getting your nails done or going to
Right.
getting a massage. All that's great, but to be there for yourself and find out what's going on, you owe it to yourself and to your children and to your life to not be battle weary, because it doesn't. I feel like I took one for the team. I've been in a battle-weary marriage for 2 decades, and, I would say to them, "Get help."
Yeah, I hear you, and I think, for you, it was about the long-term goal. When we do some of these other things, get the massage, get the nails done, they're short-term,
Mhm.
short-lived experiences,
Right.
right? But what you're talking about is that long-term investment in really taking a look at yourself. Yeah.
It's yeah, absolutely, and in my book, I talk about stop, drop, and roll, and taking radical responsibility and daming up. I call it daming up. I use that term in my book to really take radical responsibility for what's happening on your side of the street, because no matter what, if you leave, you'll still have that pain there, and it
Yeah.
will be triggered by the next person. And if you don't have children, think about your next relationship, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, Veronica, if that moment with Kara hadn't happened, what do you think? Would you still be in the marriage? Would you be divorced today? What do you think?
I would still be married. I would be battle weary. I would have been stuck in that loop. I would have distracted myself. Um, it would have been I took my marriage vows seriously, and I loved my husband, you know? I loved him, but for the fact that I was in so much pain. But I'm glad that she helped wake me up to my side of the street and taking radical responsibility, because now she gets to see a mom that's that's empowered and that's a self leader, and who can stay rational. And that gives me so much joy.
That's so good, and I'm sure it's much happier because of that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Veronica, I really want to thank you for your candor, your honesty, our conversation today. I think it's beautiful. And I know the words that you shared and the thoughts that you've shared have really given a lifeline to many battle weary wives out there listening to us today. And so I want to really thank you for that. I think you're amazing and you're beautiful. And the work you do is just so intensively important to people who are in pain right now.
Oh my God, Donna, thank you for agreeing. I know how busy you are. You are an author of yourself and you have this incredible book. I would love for you to tell our audience what this book is all about and how to reach you. And I just want to thank you for your leadership, your partnership, and your friendship. It means the world to me.
Oh, thank you so much. So, the name of the book is Be the Difference Now, and it is targeted towards executive leadership. And it's about how to lead differently as we create a new future. And so we take the old playbook of leadership and throw it out the window and create a new one that's really based on the leader itself and how they perform. And much to what we've talked about, how they go inside and understand what drives them to do the things. And I think, Veronica and I have a saying that it all starts with you. And so for leadership, it's the same thing. For wives, for marriages, it's the same thing. And so the book really drives home behaviors for the future, ways of doing things differently in the future for leaders. And for those who are interested, it's available on all the major book channels, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, just any of them that are out there. And you can find me at global, and you can email me at donnabeethedifference at global.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your time today and for making it easy to talk about myself and to
Thank you.
share these moments with others.
Oh, I again, I so appreciate this conversation. I so admire everything you're doing, and just look forward to our next conversation. Thank you so much, Veronica.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Donna. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Veronica.
This brings us to the end of our very first episode, and I'd love to thank again Donna DiDomenico, the author of Be the Difference Now, for being such a special guest host. And if this hits something real for you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend who might be silently struggling too. And make sure you're subscribed and leave a review if you've got a minute. And come find me at marriagerelationshiprestart.com for more tools, support, and guidance. I'm Veronica Allen Nabizade, and this has been Truth Bombs and Tantrums, the Marriage Real Talk podcast. Until the next time, don't fake fine. Don't go quiet, and for the love of all that's sacred, don't throw in the towel yet, because if it's worth fighting about, it's worth fixing.